The toys were simple back then. The mission seemed bigger. They danced for peace as they protested an unpopular war. 78 million baby boomers were born between 1946 and 1964. We'll show you what's on their mind now, where their lives have taken them, and what they're doing to make a world of difference. That's today on 50 Plus Prime.
And he says that unfortunately there's been complications, and he slipped into a coma.
Chris called the intensive care unit where Joshua, now 10, was being treated. He spoke with Joshua's mother, Robin, who asked Chris if he would speak to Joshua.
Whenever Joshua hears you on TV calling a duck game, he just seems to come to life.
And in slow motion, this is what runs through my mind. Josh is laying on his left side. That's his only good hand.
And this is what I heard on the other end. A gasp.
Now, more than 10 years later, Victor and his team have saved the lives of more than 200 horses. From horses left to lie in their own feces.
Horrendous.
Horses left ungroomed.
That's ridiculous. Wow.
To horses such as Lady Liberty, with hooves so overgrown she had difficulty standing.
Hey, this is Billy Andrade for 50 Plus Prime. Today's golf tip's going to work on stretching. Don't go to the first tee without a few stretches. When you come back, we'll show you how to do it.
Those stories, plus how the baby boomer generation got its name. We'll take you back to the day Lucy Ricardo one-upped President Eisenhower. And if you're one of the 20 million baby boomer caregivers in the United States, we have a little advice on how to take care of you. All of that coming up today on 50 Plus Prime. 50 Plus Prime is brought to you by WellMed. Thank you for joining us. I'm Tony Fama. On 50 Plus Prime, we travel the United States looking for baby boomers making a difference in their communities. When we find you, and there are millions of you, we like to share your stories. What better place to start than just outside Hollywood, the storytelling capital of the world? It's often said that fiction is no match for the real thing. I spent a few days not far from Hollywood with Chris Madsen, a baby boomer credited with saving the life of a little boy with cerebral palsy. Their friendship is a story of extraordinary proportion, one that even Hollywood might find difficult to match. Joshua Souter was born 3 months premature. He weighed 3 pounds, 2 ounces.
The first day after he was born, one lung collapsed, and the second day, another lung collapsed. And on the third day, he suffered a grade 4 brain hemorrhage, which is the worst kind of brain bleed you can have.
The brain hemorrhage left little Joshua with cerebral palsy. He was not expected to make it through the night. 28 days later, Joshua began to eat. And though doctors said he would live in a vegetative state for as long as he lived, Joshua's parents, Robin and John, were not about to give up.
From the minute they got him off the oxygen, but was still there in the hospital, they gave us one of those little carry seats, and John would carry him around in the carry seat along the children's hospital ward and show him the murals painted on the walls so that he would have stimulation, and constantly talking to him and moving his arms and his legs.
11 weeks after his birth, Joshua went home. In 1992, at age 8, Joshua began reading the sports pages and decided he wanted to be a sportscaster. The little boy, who wasn't expected to live more than 3 days, had already served as the poster child for United Cerebral Palsy, making friends with actors Tony Curtis and Lou Ferrigno. Then in the fall of 1993, a new NHL expansion club owned by Disney made Anaheim its home.
When the Mighty Ducks came on the scene, well, it was Disney and it was hockey. It was a sport, so he, double whammy, and he was so into it.
It was a Mighty Ducks fanfare that would change Joshua's life and the life of Chris Madsen, the voice of the Ducks, who was at that event speaking with fans.
When this attractive woman comes walking up to me and she says, "Excuse me, Mr. Madsen," she says, "but my son is a big fan of yours. And he didn't come here to see the coaches. He didn't come here to see the players. He wants to meet his favorite broadcaster. And I was wondering, is there any way that you could come and meet him with me?" And I said, "Absolutely."
Chris finally appears, gets down on one knee, and autographs a Donald Duck autograph book for me, and puts in it, Joshua shoots, he scores, Ducks win. And I'm like, wow, at this point, I'm like, wow, I'm now a part of the team.
And as I knelt down next to him and I looked in his eyes, I said to him, I said, you know what, Joshua? You told me that you want to be a broadcaster. I think you're going to be a fabulous broadcaster.
A friendship began between a man in the broadcast booth and a little boy who dreamed of sitting there himself someday. It was during the 1995 season that Joshua agreed to be Chris's guest for the last home game of every Duck season.
Now here it was the day of the game, and still nothing from the family. So I left a message on their voicemail system one last time, and moments after that, about 5:30. Now bear in mind, 5:30 on a 7:30 start of a hockey game, I'm already in the green room. I'm getting ready to interview coaches, players, and prep for calling the game. And I get called back to my desk saying, you know, you have a call.
That call came from Joshua's father, John, who said he had some bad news.
Joshua's undergone a series of operations on the shunt that runs along the top skin line of his head. And he says, and unfortunately, there's been complications, and he slipped into a coma.
Chris called the intensive care unit where Joshua, now 10, was being treated. He spoke with Joshua's mother, Robin, who asked Chris if he would speak to Joshua.
Whenever Joshua hears you on TV calling the Duck game, he just seems to come to life. And we were just hoping, would you mind if I put the phone next to Joshua's ear saying a few things? And I said, absolutely. And
so I brought the phone close to the bed, and I leaned over the bed, and I put the phone on Joshua's right ear because he was laying on his left side.
So I said, hey, Joshua, tonight the Ducks are going to close out the season against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And absolute silence on the other end.
I stood up so I wasn't hearing everything, and then all of a sudden I leaned down again, and I hear this like he's calling a game, and you know, so-and-so passes the puck to so-and-so, and I'm like, and I started to giggle.
Mikhail Stalenkov gets the nod in goal, and if the Ducks win tonight, they'll close out the season with X amount of wins and still nothing. And then I got to tell you something, Tony, and this is the God honest truth. I said a little prayer. I said, dear God, please help me find a way to reach this little boy. And it came to me instantaneously. I got back on the phone and I said, Joshua, if I was in that room with you right now, I'd lean way over in that bed and I would say to you, Joshua shoots, he scores, Ducks win.
And in slow motion, this is what runs through my mind. Josh is laying on his left side. That's his only good hand.
And this is what I heard on the other end. A gasp.
And he reaches around with his left hand and he grabs the phone, rolls his head, puts the phone to his left ear, and he says,
hello, Chris. How are you? Miraculously, Joshua had come out of the coma.
I was, oh my gosh, and I run into the hallway and scream at the nurses, he's talking.
My mom's in tears, my pastor is clapping, and it's almost like all heck breaks loose, right?
It was a miracle.
Here's the key. If Chris hadn't have made that call, I would have died.
That life-saving call inspired Chris Madsen to write a book about his friendship with Joshua, entitled Joshua Shoots, He Scores.
The most important call I ever made in this life was for an audience of one. And that's when I uttered those 4 words, Joshua shoots, he scores.
I'd have to say yes, I do think that call saved his life, you know. If you don't have any, if you don't feel any reason to go on, you know, and probably gave him the reason to continue going on, you know.
Oh, Lord, my God.
Joshua has kept on going, even after 37 surgeries, including more than 24 brain surgeries. He made it to the broadcast booth as an engineer for KWRN Radio in Corona, California. He was the public address announcer for Riverside Community College basketball. Joshua met the Mighty Ducks' Sean Hill and Travis Green, and former Anaheim Angels Tim Salmon and David Eckstein. He's even called a minor league hockey game with his friend Chris Madsen, if only for fun, recorded on his father's iPhone.
They are making changes in personnel at the opportune time, and it seems to really be paying off.
Right, it does. I'm thinking to myself, he's got more experience than I do.
As in any friendship, the support goes both ways. Next week, when Chris loses his dream job, it's Joshua's support that plays a vital role in Chris bouncing back. Next on 50 Plus Prime. Victor started his Peaceful Ridge Rescue in Davie, Florida, just outside Fort Lauderdale in 2004.
Oh, good, there's no more grass.
When he and his wife Ann began feeding a malnourished horse in the neighborhood.
Every day, me and my wife will buy carrots, chop them up, apples and everything, go over there, and we just fell in love with her, and we used to call her baby girl.
You can use your golf cart.
Billy Andrade of the PGA Champions Tour with advice to keep aging golfers limber. 50 Plus Prime is brought to you by WellMed.